Tamara, as we all know, the structure of the South African economy is largely a reflection of its past, where there was protection for large corporations and where important industries were built under state ownership. So what we see as a result is that in various sectors there are either a handful of big firms or there is only one big firm. The competition authorities have been put in place to help transform the economy, and one of their ways of doing that is through the abuse of dominance provisions. Importantly though, and as we always advise clients, it's not the position of dominance and it's not aggressive competition that is frowned upon. The issue is whether that dominance is abused.
Absolutely, Maryanne. And of course, addressing these issues of the past is challenging. So 25 years ago, the newly established competition authorities couldn't simply break up monopolies or split dominant firms. They had to work within the ambit of the competition legislation, and that remains the way they are required to work today. So they were tasked and are tasked with assessing the practices and conduct of dominant firms. But at the outset, of course, the provisions of the Competition Act were untested, and a key case decided by the Competition Tribunal in 2005 fortunately provided clarity on exclusionary conduct on the part of dominant firms. This was the case relating to South African Airways, and the Competition Tribunal in this case supported the Commission's findings and its referral. So the case involved incentive schemes used by SAA in its arrangements with travel agents. SAA was a clearly dominant player in the domestic travel market. What was essential, though, was that the tribunal ruled that on a balance of probabilities, it was the practical effect of SAA's incentive schemes that it operated with travel agents that actually induced travel agents to not deal with the airline's competitors. And on this basis, and having implemented this conduct over time, SAA had engaged in an exclusionary act. But the tribunal also said that it was necessary to show that the exclusionary act had an anti-competitive effect. And this could be demonstrated by way of direct evidence of either an adverse effect on consumer welfare or evidence that showed that the exclusionary act was substantial or significant in terms of foreclosing the market to SAA's competitors. Evidence as to both of these was presented, and the Commission ultimately found that the Commission was correct in concluding that SAA had abused a dominant position. This was a really key case at the time because it involved a state-owned enterprise being held liable for abuse of dominance. It paid what was then the highest penalty at the time for abuse of dominance, and had to adjust its conduct and practices and consider the effect of these on the market going forward.
And what is comforting for us is that over the years, that test has remained the same. There must be a showing of significant anti-competitive effect, and the two key questions are, is there harm to consumer welfare, or are competitors being pushed out of the market? And there has to be that showing before there will be a finding against a firm. Even though that hasn't changed, one important change that everyone needs to be aware of is that the Commission is focused on helping small firms and medium enterprises and helping firms owned by historically disadvantaged persons. And for that reason, there are now restrictions in place as to how dominant firms deal with those kinds of companies. And finally, what's also important to notice from a current perspective is that the Commission, like all other competition authorities globally, is starting to shine a spotlight on big tech. And so we expect that there will be more focus and investigations on these kinds of entities.
Absolutely, and we've already seen the Commission make use of market inquiries as a way to understand particular dynamics, including dominance. I think what will be continuously a challenge is for competition regulation to keep up with market dynamics in an ever-evolving world.